Hello everyone, this is JPL, and today I'm joined with...
Jay.
And Christopher.
Yes, and we are Podcast Name in Brackets, back for our monthly edition of the Top 5, where we are finally caught up to where we left off. Last month we talked about 2014, and this month we are celebrating 10 years of Podcast Name in Brackets by redoing our classic 2015 episode, which we did all those years ago. We had different guests on that episode, so yeah. 2015 year I
Hmm.
got really into My Little Pony, did theater, cool stuff that's like very great. So yeah, I don't attribute it to films that much. Like there are blockbuster films that I'm like, yes, I was looking forward to in 2015. This was like the year where I started keeping track of like what's coming up, looking out for trailers and such. So yeah, there's that. How about you, Jay?
Yeah, this was it's kind of an interesting coincidence that this was the first year we did the podcast, because I would say this was a major year for me as a movie watcher and as someone who watches movies from a current year. Like, this is the first year that my family had Netflix.
Me
Um
too.
so that meant I was watching stuff on Netflix and catching up with classics. And because yeah, growing up my family had like this giant DVD collection, but it's what you have in the collection, and that's what you have. And the collection was stuff that my parents liked, so that was most of what the movies I was watching. And obviously they would get like kids movies for my sisters and I, but that very curated there. Whereas like with Netflix, okay, now I have access to stuff that I wouldn't have had before. I also, this is the year I learned how to use the euphemism sail the open seas. So that made it even easier to find stuff to watch. And yeah, that meant that I was watching a lot of grown up movies for the first time. Um, Watching more R-rated stuff, maybe without my parents' permission, maybe. But I was more aware of stuff. This is the first year where I tried to watch like all of the best picture nominees for the Oscars. um but yeah, I still, as we'll see when we get into the list here, I was still very much like a teenager with teenager taste a little bit. So
Oh yeah.
not not as sophisticated maybe as I looking back at it as I would have liked to have been.
Mhm. Yeah, I was sailing the seas back in 2012 because I really wanted to watch Doctor Who, and so that's how I did it. And then I discovered, wait a minute, if I could watch Doctor Who, I could watch movies, and so I did that. So yeah, 2015. Why don't you tell us about the box office, Jay?
Yeah. So this is the first year since 2009 when Avatar came out that we have a $2 billion movie. That is, of course, Star Wars: The Force Awakens. We also have quite a few $1 billion movies. We have Jurassic World, Furious 7, Avengers, Age of Ultron, and Minions, all making a lot of money. And yeah, a lot of franchise movies here. We do actually have a couple originals though. We have Inside Out, and then The Martian, which is obviously based on a book, but that's not a big franchise unlike a lot of these other picks here. And then yeah, awards. This is an interesting year for awards. In terms of the Oscars, the long shot contender Spotlight beat out front runners The Revenant and The Big Short to win Best Picture. That was not a widely predicted thing that happened, though. It's a win that a lot of people think back fondly on as like a, oh, that was cool that won, even if it wasn't the one that people were pulling for. Um, and then yeah, it's important to talk about this year in terms of the hashtag Oscars So White campaign. This was the second year in a row where all 20 acting nominees were white. And the previous year, activist April Rain had created this hashtag, and people brought it back this year with even greater fervor. And actually, the Academy um, decided to respond by expanding its membership, creating a younger, more diverse, and more international voting body. And obviously, we can't know for sure what effect that has had, but in the last decade, we've seen an increase in recognition, not only for non white actors, but also for women, especially in like directing non American films and genre films as well. We're seeing, especially horror, has been getting more recognition there. So yeah, very big sea change in terms of the Oscars there. In terms of specialty awards, Defon wins the Palme d'Or. That's from Jacques Audiard, who directed Emilia Perez, controversially. Um, From Afar wins the Golden Lion. The MTV Movie Award goes to Star Wars: The Force Awakens. That had previously gone to more teenage focused movies, so that's kind of interesting. And then the Razzie, we have a tie for Fantastic Four and 50 Shades, which I don't know. That
Fantastic.
Fantastic, yes. That feels like very lazy picks to me, but that's kind of what the Razzies do. They take the one or two most hated movies on the internet and are like, okay, this is the worst one. No need to dig any deeper.
Before we get into our top fives, because we are not only revisiting our 2015 list, we're doing new stuff with it. So, Jay, we have a new format, slightly new
Yeah,
format.
yeah. It's basically the same as usual. We're going to be doing our sort of round robin through our different picks here, but the difference is that John and I actually have original picks. So we're gonna quick before we get into our current pick for the top five or four or three of the year. We're going to be giving what we originally gave 10 years ago on that original podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, same with honorable mentions and worst. And then at the end we also have our what we initially put down as our most anticipated movie of 2016. So we're going to talk briefly about whether we like that or not.
Right. Yeah. Did you have like any criteria for like choosing what what was on your list this time? Like, did you try to choose something different than your original, or were you just going
Um
on what you actually felt?
Kind of there's a couple that made my original list that I might have put in my honorable mentions otherwise, but decided to go with different picks. But yeah, for the most part, like all of my top five is completely different from what it was 10 years ago. And that is like this is my top five, or almost completely different. There's one pick that changed spots. Um
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I didn't have any special criteria for what made it and what didn't.
Okay. Well, with that, why don't we get started?
Yeah. So my original number five from 10 years ago was the Hunger Games Mockingjay Part Two. This still remains one of my favorites of the franchise, though I don't love everything about it. Um, and yeah, revisiting it, there are other films from this year that have risen in my estimation, um, including The Lobster, my current number five pick. This is directed by Yorgos Lanthimos and written by Lanthimos and his frequent screenwriting companion, Efthimis Philippou. Um, this was actually originally on my best of 2016 list 9 years ago. But because Letterboxd has this listed as a 2015 release, I decided to jump over to this one for this. So this is one that I have loved since I saw it. I just happened to see it a different year than what was listed here. Um, yeah, this is Lanthimos's English language debut. It's sort of this satire of modern romance set in this world where single people are sent to a hotel to find a partner, and if they don't, they are turned into an animal, supposedly. And yeah, this is just like a very dry, dark comedy. It's not as intense as Dogtooth or more recently Bugonia, but it is definitely not going to be for everyone. It has some intense moments. I maybe made the mistake of showing this to some friends who weren't going to appreciate it. um,
I wonder
anyway.
who that could be.
uh, but yeah, this is like the peak of Lanthimos's sort of dry delivery that he had actors do at around this time. It's very interesting watching clips of this, having seen his more recent work where the performances are a little bit more natural. Still very stilted, but this one is like very heightened. The emotions are very controlled. And like this one specifically, The Lobster has some really good narration in it that I just love. Rachel Weisz does the narration, and her delivery is just perfect with every line. and yeah, it's also just like visually really interesting. Like Ireland is a beautiful country, and we're getting to see the landscapes and the forests, and I enjoy all of that stuff. And yeah, when I saw this in 2016, initially, I hadn't seen anything else like it before. Um, and it has stuck with me ever since, even as I've seen other Lanthimos films and other sort of dark comedy satires that hit similar marks.
Yep, I remember the unfortunate day that you forced me and our other friends to watch this. It was your birthday, by the
Yes,
way.
it was. It was.
Yes, you
That's
forced
a great
us.
excuse, though.
Yes, great excuse. Forced us to do a double feature of this and Manchester by the Sea to to very pleasant films for like general people, high schoolers even, who aren't very cinephile. Yeah, that was a day. um, I we had a good time. We ripped into it, laughed. There were some funny moments in this film for sure. I've not gone back and rewatched it, but like stuff does stick out to you, and like, yep, that was certainly something that I saw. Um,
Do you
yeah,
remember the ending? Because
yes,
that's sort of a
I,
iconic,
I remember being
frustrating ending.
I remember being disappointed that they didn't end with a lobster coming to the table. Um,
uh,
yes. Yeah. Also, Hunger Games Part Two.
yes.
I yeah, I was yeah, it's a film. I was frustrated at that time. I kind of just got fell out in love with Hunger Games at that time. It was like, oh, the sequel, it's so predictable. But it was more enjoyable than Part One. Yeah, so
Yeah, yeah.
that's what I'll say. Christopher,
No words. I haven't seen either.
what have you seen?
We'll find out. We'll find out. Oh wait, it's my turn. Oh,
Yes.
I'm sorry. I thought like John was gonna go next. Specifically because the document was so like detailed in a
Oh,
certain way, and I'm just
yeah.
like on the corner, like okay, yeah, I'm last.
Sorry about that. Yeah,
Are
No,
you
we're doing
not
no,
normal
you're
order
fine.
here.
are you
It's
not
fine.
looking at the PowerPoint,
I am
Christopher?
looking at the PowerPoint. I didn't swipe. That's
Okay.
what I was just like. Yeah, John's next, and then I swipe in, and it's me. It's
This has been
me.
the format for like the year and a half,
I know,
Christopher.
but the document looked very
I
specific.
understand the confusion. Yeah. So what's your
Thank
pick
you.
here?
Someone understands, John. Someone understands me. Um, so back in 2015, I liked, but now I like, I don't have a list from 2015, but I, um, I'm picking a movie called The Silenced. It's a Korean film. Also, I think I talked about a different Korean movie called Silenced. Those are two very, very different films, though they both are set in schools. So, yeah, different films. I watched The Silence for actress Bak So-dam, who is popularly in Parasite. Um, but yeah, this is um, definitely a more obvious of the idea of the blend genres kind of movie. It was funny. Uh, so kind of like the first half of the movie, and there's elements throughout, but the first half of the movie definitely is more horror based, and it was kind of spooking my roommate. And then the second half gets into a uh, plot detail that started to piss me off. And so it was funny. The first half I was laughing at him. The second half he was laughing at me. Um, so and and not that it pissed me off in terms of I didn't like it. It's uh it's you know, if you watch it you may understand. Yeah, so definitely, of course, watching it was memorable, but I also just really liked the film um, quite a bit. But I definitely, I would say, like, I don't love classifying movies in genres sometimes, um, and also sometimes genre bending movies can feel can incorporate a little better. I think it. Which here's the thing. I like this movie. I like it as it is. I'm not necessarily gonna come on here and be like I demand changes for it to be a smoother ride, but the shifts are kind of great, and if you watch it, you kind of understand. But that's okay. I really like this film. Uh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious about this one. Just looking up images to put in the PowerPoint, and then hearing that it's sort of blending genres. It visually, for some reason, it was bringing to mind the Handmaiden,
Mm,
the Park Chan Wook film, which
hmm.
I think is set at around a similar time. Though obviously this one seems quite different in where it goes. So yeah, I'm curious to see this at some point.
Yeah. And I have not seen The Handmaiden yet, so, and that's on the list.
Yeah, and I have not seen this one, so you know,
You know.
you know. Moving on to my number five. My original number five from 2015 was Jurassic World. Listening back to the episode, my reasons are just so contradictory and confusing because I did not really like this film. And the only thing I actually liked about it was the nostalgia aspect of it. And so when I put it in my number five, I said it's like, oh yeah, I don't actually really like this film, but I really like it because it's really good. That's kind of the quote that I said, and nobody knew what I meant. Um, so yeah, I had not seen a whole bunch of films, so this was kind of like scraping the barrel for what to have. And like, yeah, nostalgia, dinosaurs, Jurassic Park, sure. Nowadays, it's the best of that trilogy, but it's still
That's not
a
a high
poor.
bar. That's not a high
Yes,
bar.
not a high bar. But moving on to my current number five, I have Ip Man 3, or IP Man 3. This time around, Ip Man has dealing with like a family thing where his wife is dying and he has to like struggle with like, oh, do I like do my duty for the people or do I like spend time with my wife? Then there's like this other guy who just wants to prove himself, and then for some reason Mike Tyson wants to like tear down a school for what? Yeah. Anyway, it's an all over the place film. It has some really fun action. The Mike Tyson fight was not one of those, but it's there's decent stuff in it. So yeah, I'll leave it there.
Yeah, this is another of those franchises. I think I mean, obviously you've brought it up previously on other top five lists, and I'm always curious to get into this one as someone who has enjoyed Donnie Yen in the films that I have seen him in. Well, yeah, my original number four, honestly, kind of a cool pick from me. Not to toot my own horn, though I do disagree. I don't love this as much in retrospect, but I originally had The Hateful Eight, the eighth film by Quentin Tarantino, if you count the Kill Bills as one movie. Anyway, yeah, this is something that, again, at the time I was very much I was just starting to watch Tarantino films, and as a young cinephile, Tarantino is one of those directors who stands tall. And yeah, this was exciting to just like, oh, there's a new Tarantino out. Um, and it has this like really interesting, this murder mystery, but it's shot in this like super wide angle, so it's like, oh, you're going to be focused on one thing happening, but then someone is going to be doing something else in the background, and if you catch a glimpse, maybe you'll figure out who the killer is. And then like 2 hours into the movie, it's like two or like almost 3 hours long. 2 hours in, they're just like, oh, here's who did it. And then it's yeah, the mystery kind of gets ruined. And yeah, that it has been my issue with the film since it came out. Is just like, oh, I love the mystery part. When it turns into a Tarantino movie, then loses me a little bit. Um, but yeah, I mean, just a gorgeous film. But yeah, anyway, I should eventually get onto my actual pick for this list here. My updated number 4 is Green Room, written and directed by James Saulnier. It's about a traveling punk band who accidentally end up at a skinhead club, and they witness a murder and end up trapped in the venue's green room, where they have to find a way to escape before the neo Nazis kill them. Um, yeah, this is like a really, really smart, well constructed thriller. Like I feel like it's known for that online as being like just if you're looking for the type of thriller, I think Panic Room also kind of fits this, which is another one that I love, of just like this group of characters in this tense situation, and they have to puzzle out how to proceed. And it isn't that they don't make mistakes, but the mistakes they make feel very understandable, of like, oh yeah, it makes sense. It feels like they are smart. They've just been put in this very difficult situation and have to figure out how to survive. Yeah, there's just like such an attention to detail. You really understand like the layout of this club and where all of the characters are in relation to each other, and even like specific objects. Like, you can follow very easily who has which gun and which weapon and who wants that weapon and where it's going and all of that stuff. It's just really well constructed in a way. Um and it also like feels somewhat prescient. It isn't really digging into the political side of things, but in the years since has come out, it feels like it has become more and more relevant each year. Um yeah, it just also has this incredible cast. Anton Yelchin, Imogen Poots, Callum Turner. He's been in some stuff recently, and Patrick Stewart plays the sort of the leader of this neo-Nazi group in this villainous role, and has like a very interesting take on the character. So yeah, this is one, if you enjoy thrillers, if you enjoy sort of horror that is written very intelligently. I will say it is also very violent, so maybe that's a draw, or maybe that will keep some people away. Um, yeah, this is just an incredible film.
I've not seen it.
And neither have I. All right. Well, moving on to me, I guess. I have a movie called Veteran, another Korean film. This one I watched for the first time about a year ago. Um, I'm confused by that middle shot. I don't. That may be in it, maybe not be. I don't remember.
Okay.
I don't remember. It's not a big
That's
deal.
what popped up on Google. So
Okay, fine. Yeah, I if that's in, that's crazy. But who knows? Anyways, um, yeah, I it's a police film, and there's bad guy, and you got to get bad guy. I don't remember all the details, but I in remember it being an enjoyable ride. Um, yeah, there for a time, because I feel like a lot of things that are on Netflix from Korea tend to be like just their original things. Um, but for a time, they just had like this director's a handful of his films just on Netflix for a little bit, and I think they were. I when I found that out, they were about to leave, so I kind of went through a handful of them. Um, so that was fun. And this one I think is like a popular movie. I think it did well commercially. There was a sequel that released last year. But yeah, like some of the other films I watched of his were The Battleship Island and The Berlin File, which I believe I talked about The Berlin File in earlier episodes. So yeah,
yeah, yeah,
just a solid little, police perspective movie. Um, yeah, there's one thing I'd like to say about this, but I don't want to because it's a little surprise. But I, if I was gonna make a joke about someone appearing and I didn't verbalize it, and then it actually happened, and I lost my mind. That's pretty funny.
not seen this one. John, have you seen this one?
Yeah, you know me. I watch a lot of this director's films. No, I've not seen this one.
Oh. But yeah, I mean, looking up images for this, it looked like it has a very interesting style to it. So maybe I'll have to check it out at some point.
Yeah.
Mhm. On to my number four. My original number four from 2015 was The Martian with Matt Damon stuck on Mars. Um, I really liked stuff in space, stuff on Mars, just like a typical survival stuff. A lot of it being quote unquote scientific and realistic in its portrayal on how it does things. And it's fun. On rewatch, it's not as exciting or as thriller esque because you know what's happening and the tension doesn't quite feel the same. But it was really good on that first time watching, and I really liked it back then.
That's funny that you bring that up because that is literally my exact thought on this movie. Is that I loved it the first time around, and then the second time around, I was like, "Oh, this isn't nearly as tense." But I mean, Matt Damon is so much fun, and
Yeah.
the Mars, the science of it all. This is a movie that, when I was a kid growing up, I used to want to be an astronaut, and then for some reason, I think it's because I found out you need to know math, and I was like, I don't want to learn math, so I guess I'm not going to be an astronaut. And then I watched The Martian, and I was like, oh, I want to be an astronaut again. And then I found out I'm too tall. So
Actually?
yes, so they have to. There's like a height range because they need to be able to standardize stuff.
Oh
Um,
man,
and I am like just outside of the height range for that. So
that's
anyway, there
crazy.
goes that dream. But for a little while, The Martian brought it back. But yeah, John, what's your current pick for number four?
My current pick for number four is My Little Pony Equestria Girls Friendship Games. Continuing with like the past couple years of this film trilogy. Here we have this third one, which I don't love as much as the last one that I talked about, the one that I said was peak sequel stuff. Um, it's a fun general story, but this film for me, there's a 10-minute sequence that for me at least is probably some of my favorite stuff from this franchise. And it's like, it's really good. Some character stuff goes all full circle. They go very as experimental as they can for animation, especially this flash animation that was really cool, very much inspired by anime stuff.
Oh,
um, which this was also the year I was really starting to get into anime. So, okay, that's interesting. Um, yeah, it's fun. I I liked it more back then. I haven't really rewatched it since, so it's been a while. But I think it's solid enough. Sure, let's just say that.
yeah, I will be watching this shortly or not, maybe not
Shortly,
too shortly, at some point in the next 5 or 6 years for the
yeah.
Binging Barbie series that we're doing. Christopher, any thoughts on My Little Pony friendship games?
No thoughts. Haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, I mean the name just kind of turns you off, but it's actually a much better film than the name implies. But anyway, moving
I
on.
mean, I just, it's nothing about the name. I just haven't seen it. That's all.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. On to my number three. Originally, this is John reminded me actually of a funny thing with this movie. I have the Justin Kurzel Macbeth starring Michael Fassbender and Marion Cotillard, which I had forgotten that I was halfway through watching this when we recorded our original episode. I got partway through it, had to pause it in order to go to record, and then finished it up after. And yeah, I mean, at this time was when I was sort of very interested in Macbeth as a play. Our library had a copy of the book that was like from the early 1900s that I would check out and like flip through and be like, oh, this book has been around for so long. This is so cool. So then this adaptation gets announced, and I'm like, oh, this is really cool, and it's very like grounded and gritty. And yeah, this is one where this probably makes my honorable mention still because it is one that I have a lot of fondness for. But because I'm already mentioning it here, I decided not to mention it in my actual honorable mentions. Um, but yeah, my actual current pick for number three of 2015 is a little film called Mistress America. I have said before, I think the last time we recorded, I said that Noah Baumbach has become, in watching through his films, especially for this podcast, has become one of my favorite filmmakers. And as I teased there, his last film was not going to be the only one to make it on my list, on my top 5 lists. So yeah, this is directed by Noah Baumbach, written by Baumbach and Greta Gerwig, their second film together as sort of collaborators. Um, and yeah, it's about a young woman who moves to New York for college and starts spending time with her future stepsister. And it sort of takes on this great Gatsby format where we are observing this very interesting character through the eyes of our protagonist. Um, yeah, just fascinating character. And it builds up to this incredible show-stopping set piece, which is set in this like big house. All of the characters end up in this big house together, and all of the interpersonal conflicts come to a head. And for like 40 minutes, we're just going from conversation to conversation between these characters, and like it's incredible, like the performances and the filmmaking and the dialogue is like firecrackers. It's screwball comedy. It's great. Lots of long takes with lots of lines, and yeah, it's this really incredible piece of filmmaking that this entire thing has been building up to, and all of these various conflicts come out. And yeah, it's so much fun. I feel like this film gets overshadowed by Frances Ha, which is the previous Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach collaboration. But I think this one is just as good. Maybe even better. That might be sacrilegious to say. Um, I love it so much. Greta Gerwig stars as Brooke, who is sort of the older of the stepsisters, who is just incredibly fascinating, her character. Lola Kirk, Michael Chernus shows up playing basically the same guy he does on Severance. Very similar. I was rewatching stuff from this one in preparation for this podcast. It was like, oh yeah, no, that's why I recognized him so immediately in Severance, because he is playing the same character. Um, Also, Matthew Shear as, and let me check my notes here, scientifically speaking, the most attractive character in any film ever. So yeah, Mistress America. Highly recommend it, especially if you're a Baumbach and Gerwig fan. This is, again, gets overshadowed by Frances Ha, I think, very unfairly. This is so good.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I haven't seen either of those films. Moving on, I have a movie called The Beauty Inside, um, which also, interestingly enough, there is also a K drama of the same name and a very similar concept. I don't know the history of all that. But basically, um, there's this person who uh, basically, I think every day wakes up in a different body.
Oh,
Yeah, and he falls in love with a woman, and so
A different woman or the same woman?
the same woman, but basically, like, yeah, like obviously, how do you reconcile that to her? You know,
yeah,
how do you introduce yourself and be like, I'm gonna be different every day if you want to love me, kind of thing. It's so fascinating. Um, so yeah, very, and they definitely there's one part in the film where it does get into the fact of like seeing it from her aspect of her being frustrated
yeah,
about, you know, like obviously initially you're infatuated with someone, but then it's like, but you know how hard this is for me, like, um very fascinating film. So I like this film.
Okay.
yeah.
Sounds
That
interesting.
concept, yeah. This is one of those things where like the concept sounds so interesting that I would almost be curious to see like different cultural interpretations of it. You
Hmm.
know, what
Hmm.
does this look like in a Hollywood version? What does this look like in a Bollywood
Mm.
version? What does this look
Mm.
like different genres and stuff even you can play around with that.
A
Yeah.
Bollywood version would be nuts.
Probably.
I'd probably see a Bollywood version, honestly. Yeah, that'd be great.
Mhm. Well, moving on to my number three. My original number three from 2015 was Avengers: Age of Ultron. As you could probably tell, I was a very simple man back then. I'm still a simple man now, but my tastes back then were even more simple. Um, yeah, I was just really excited for this one. I saw the trailer. I was like, ah, yes, the next adventure. Ah, the Hulkbuster. Like, ah, the fighting. Ah, it's so cool. And that's kind of what I liked about it. Um, since then, it's just been overshadowed by better films, and I have some issues with like the antagonist and just how rushed some aspects are, or stuff here and there. But overall, it's fine. If it would just be an honorable mention today, but yeah, back then it was my number three. And back then, you were tired of superhero films, Jay.
I mean that I have gone full circle on Marvel stuff. I feel like maybe multiple times even, so that makes sense.
Yes, but today my number three is The Hateful Eight. I've There's a couple on my list today that's like taken from Jacob. um, they,
You have stolen my movies.
Yes. Back then, Tarantino was like kind of a newer person for me. I don't really think I'd seen much Tarantino. I think Pulp Fiction was probably the only one I saw, or maybe I didn't see it at that time. Who knows? But I definitely had not seen this one. But since then, I've seen it. I've seen the rest of Tarantino's films, and I enjoy it. I think quality wise, it's the reason why it's here on my list because quality wise it's a decent film. You get engaged, you like some of the banter, and it's fun. I don't have the same issue that you have with like the mystery and the reveal. To me it works just fine. um and I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. I think I've said my piece, but yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. I'll say my piece on Avengers: Age of Ultron. Um, I like this one more than the first Avengers film.
Okay.
It's been a while since I've seen Age of Ultron, but I think like I recall saying with like the first Avengers film that it's almost like argue, fight, argue, fight, argue, fight, and but I think like the times when like they're at um I don't remember whose house, but maybe Hawkeye's house. I don't remember, but and there are discussions going on, and it feels more like even though there may be arguments with that, it feels more like discussions and not just bickering. And I think I enjoy how the characters are portrayed here more than the other. Um, and I also think because I got into the MCU for Tony Stark, and so kind of this being uh, Tony Stark's issue that causes all of this, and like where it comes initially, like you understand where he's coming from, but it goes into a way that is very that doesn't end well, and also has consequences for the future. Honestly, kind of even just thinking about this plot kind of is speaking to today with AI, um, you know, it being
Yeah.
utilized more, and we'll see how that will end. And a lot of people don't think that's going to end well. And I think there are good intentions that can come from it. I think there's also a lot of bad intentions that are also out there. But I think there's people with good intentions, but maybe there comes a point when we should say we should be content with where we're at. We could progress in science, but maybe there comes a point where we should just let the science rest and just continue our lives just the way they are, just the way it is. So yeah, I if I was to rank the Avengers films, Age of Ultron comes second. It definitely has issues. Um, I think specifically with them not truly following up on Black Widow and Hulk's relationship. Like, I think it would be interesting if this was only the first part of many in that aspect, but since it kind of just ends here, it just feels unfulfilled and confused, um,
And cringe.
and cringe for sure. So, yeah. Uh, Again, it's been a few years since I've seen it, but this is my second favorite Avengers film.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have that high of praise for it, but I have it. I also haven't seen it in many years. But yeah,
Yeah.
one that I have seen more recently, and this is actually one of the biggest reasons I wanted to do a redo was looking over my original list and going, "Oh, this should not have been my number two of the year." And that's Mad Max Fury Road. And I'll leave it at that for now. That this should not have been number two on my list. But yeah, my redo here is a very different film, probably about as different as you can get. And that's Henry Gamble's Birthday Party. This is written and directed by Stephen Cohn, who I previously talked about for 2011. He wrote and directed The Wise Kids. Um, and yeah, this follows the titular birthday party of a closeted gay pastor's son. The pastor's son is gay, not the pastor. Um, and yeah, it's just like full of these really well observed characters and moments. Like anyone who has lived or been adjacent to American evangelicalism will immediately recognize the characters, like the conversations that they're having, the small little moments. There's one that a reviewer on Letterboxd pointed out, which I don't have pulled up to credit that person, but a moment where two characters are watching a an action movie that's on just playing on TV. Um, and then it switches over and starts to turn into a love scene, and immediately they start like fumbling for the remote, and one of them says very loudly, "I don't know why we pay for these movie channels. It's all just garbage anyway." Just for the benefit of anyone walking by to know that no, they're not watching that scene. Um, there's like the youth pastor shows up, and I think they even introduce him as the youth pastor, but they don't need to, because the moment he steps on screen, you're like, oh, that guy has youth pastor vibes. He's so obviously the youth pastor. And yeah, it's just like all of these little moments and character details, but it is also it's going beyond that. It's sort of picking at this facade of white suburban America and like looking under and being like, hey, what's the reality here? What are the things that people are hiding? What are they focusing on? And what should they be focusing more on? These relationships, these complexities here, the contradictions. It's just very fascinating, but it's doing it in like a very tender and empathetic way. It doesn't feel super judgmental. I've even seen like a variety of responses to this of like different people taking away completely different readings of this film, um based on what they bring into it going in. um I will say there is a moment near the end of the film that feels a little bit out of place. It sort of leans a bit harder into intensity and melodrama than a lot of the previous stuff had done, but I think just as a whole this is a very quiet and beautiful film about people that is just again, it's so well observed, and it's like it's under 90 minutes long as well, which is always a plus in my book. This and Mistress America are both under 90 minutes, so
Sounds
I have
fascinating.
not seen it.
My number two is Robert Eggers' full length debut, The Witch. And I don't remember if it was on podcast or not. I'd mentioned horror is not my favorite genre. I'm fascinated by horror of what it can do and the creativity that comes out of it, but it's not necessarily a genre that speaks to me. Um, but I but there's sometimes the occasional film that really works for me, and The Witch is one of those movies I really do like. Um, and I know there are multiple interpretations of it, but definitely kind of like the way I like to look at it is what it looks like when um, with the influence of the devil in your household and how that can turn destructive. And I think it's a very, very fascinating film and very well done.
John, are you familiar with The Witch?
Uh, by name, but I've not seen or heard anything.
Okay. Yeah, this is sort of a very interesting film because it is, Robert Eggers' debut feature, as you were saying. It is also an early film for Anya Taylor-Joy, who has become a major star in the years since. And yeah, I remember watching this. I must have seen it in like 2016 or something. Um, I don't think I mentioned it on that year's end of year podcast, but um, yeah, I remember walking away from it and being, as someone who is still at that point relatively new to horror, and just it was different than anything I had seen before. There's this very intentional approach it takes to the way it builds up tension, and even like it doesn't fully release the tension. Like you leave and it feels like there's still something coiled up inside you, of like you're waiting for another jump scare to let it all out, but it doesn't provide you with that. um yeah, again, Anya Taylor-Joy, just absolute star making performance here. This came out, and then at around the same time, I think a few months later, maybe a year later, was Split. And between those two films, those were immediately like, I was thinking, okay, she is someone to watch. And it's been fun watching her career sort of flourish since then and be like, okay, yeah, I was right to sort of invest in her career in that way from that early on.
Also, I would like to add on with my horror comment. I think this movie really had solidified Robert Eggers as a director that I'm very fascinated by. I think a lot of people like to say that they have favorite directors. I kind of prefer to say I'm fascinated by directors. And so Eggers is one of those directors. And so anytime he has a movie, I'm very much like, I want to see it. I want to see what he's going to say, how he's going to depict um, his message, and the style that he does his movies intrigues me, or I very much like the way he does it. So, yes, I hope that he is able to do A Christmas Carol with Willem Dafoe. I hope that does happen because literally that is one of my most anticipated films of all time if that actually happens. Because
Okay.
right now it's kind of just in uh, talks. But if that
Yeah.
happens, oh my goodness, oh my goodness, it's gonna be peak.
Well, moving on to my number two. My original number two from 2015 was My Little Pony Equestria Girls Friendship Games, which has since then moved down to number four. But yeah, back then, yeah, I could definitely tell that I was like a huge brony who just was really excited to like talk about My Little Pony, that it had to be number two. Um, where just those 10 minutes just beat out all the other films. I don't disagree, but yeah, it's kind of it's kind of funny that I put it at number 2 back then, but yeah. Today, my number 2 film is in Mission Impossible 5 Rogue Nation, which is yeah, back then Mission Impossible was more of your franchise, Jay. You were constantly talking about this film, or at least mentioning it to me. Um, and I didn't really get into these films until I guess like a couple years ago. And like now I really like this franchise, and it's like, oh yep, this is a really good one. Cool stuff. Airplane, cool. Rebecca Ferguson, cool. It's funny. It's interesting. I don't know what else to say about it.
Yeah, no, this is, for me, this is the first Mission Impossible that I had seen in the theaters. And even like, I think the first Mission Impossible was the first PG-13 movie I watched. My parents showed it to me, I think not realizing that it was PG-13 because I was pretty young for it. Um, but then watched Ghost Protocol when I turned 13, and then was so excited for this one in 2015. Went to see it with my grandmother in the theaters, and just had an incredible time. So exciting. Rebecca Ferguson, as you were saying, an incredible addition to this cast here. Yeah, the mix of just incredible action filmmaking, but then also like very artful action filmmaking. We have this
Yeah.
opera set piece partway into the film that is just like beyond anything I had seen up to that point. The mixture of the sort of more sophisticated, more high art thing with this, secret agent special gadgets franchise. Like, yeah, it just like it was so great. Um, I think the reason this isn't in my top five is maybe just that I love Fallout even more than this. But yeah, this is just one of top three, maybe even top two Mission Impossibles for me.
Um, I watched all the Mission Impossibles in anticipation for a Final Reckoning. Um, and so definitely like the month leading up was a lot of Mission Impossible, and I didn't dis like it wasn't that I didn't enjoy the ride. It Things kind of just started to blend together, and
Yeah,
I remember specifically I was at a friend's house. He did a watch party for Rogue Nation and Fallout. That's the next one, right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And I was a very sleepy little guy while watching Rogue Nation, but I was awake enough during Fallout, which Fallout is so good.
Yeah.
And it was kind of funny. My brother had the opposite experience. He really liked Rogue Nation, but was super sleepy during Fallout, and like that's reflected on his ratings on Letterboxd. Like, buddy, you we watched Fallout one day. It's so good.
yeah. That's an odd double feature because they are so similar.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
Fallout and this one kind of blend together in my mind a little bit. It's like I can distinctly tell this what the stunts are for each film, but I can't exactly tell what the story is of this one in comparison to the rest of ones where I can easily tell what they are, which is it's kind
Yeah,
of odd,
yeah.
but
I don't
That's
know the
interesting to
story of
hear.
this one, but I know the story of Fallout.
Yeah. That's interesting to hear because I was watching these as they were coming out. So I saw this one in 2015 and followed in 2018. So they're very clearly demarcated in my head. Although, I
Hmm.
mean, with Mission Impossible, I don't know if I could accurately give a plot description for any of the movies without rewatching them because
Yeah,
it's a little bit of, the stunts are the big thing and then the plot is just kind of what gets you to the next stunt.
yeah.
Um
Yeah,
and
pretty
I
much.
think that's the thing about Fallout is because it actually gets personal, and I think that's why it sticks in my head a lot more. Is that he is that Cruz's character actually has to fight for himself, basically, um,
Fallout, this
and
time it's
and the
personal.
world and people, but it very much is like for him. While I feel like the other movies are very much like just the world, which is great.
yeah.
Go man, but uh, there isn't a lot for me to latch onto them. But you mentioned the opera thing. That is, I guess, was there a water thing as well?
Yeah, there's
Also,
he dives into a thing and has to hold his breath, and they did a whole big stunt for that as well.
yeah. So I remember those things, but I don't remember why any of those things had to happen.
Yeah. It is so weird that like we hold this film to such high regard in the franchise, but like out of all the films of the franchise, like I cannot tell you what this film was about. It's weird. It just blends back. I don't know. It's
Yeah.
odd. But before we go on to our number ones, why don't we talk about our honorable mentions?
Yeah, so I actually did have some honorable mentions back in 2015 that I'll just run through quickly.
Ooh,
I will say these are like, for the most part, very like teenager honorable mentions here in terms of stuff that I've maybe outgrown a little bit. We have Maze Runner: The Scorched Trials, Me and Earl and the Dying Girl, The Duff, Mission Impossible: Rogue Nation. So there, I don't know why it didn't make my list. I guess just because I had seen Hunger Games more recently. So
maybe.
that may be a little bit of bias there, which is part of why it's fun to do this redo on the list. And then Eli and Ellie's, or Ellie and Eli's no kiss list. I forget which name is pronounced which way. Um, yeah, again, a lot of YA stuff in there, but also Mission Impossible. But yeah, on now to my sort of current honorable mentions as of right now. I organize these alphabetically as I normally do, just because I don't necessarily know how I'd rank these all together. But first up, we have Bird Boy and the Forgotten Children. This is from Spanish animators Alberto Vasquez and Pedro Rivera. And this is a dark and edgy movie that feels perfect for angsty teenagers. So not much different from my original honorable mentions. But I will say this also has like a really strong emotional core that shines through, and some just really incredible animation. Um, this is one where like if you looked at the wrong screenshots you might think this is for kids. It's very much not for kids. It is dark and angsty, but again, it just the animation is gorgeous. Then I have Steven Spielberg's Bridge of Spies. This is rewatching through and watching through a lot of the Spielberg films. I did a whole big project for that this year. um this was surprisingly jumped up my list to be one of my favorites of his films. It's this great mix of all of his skills with characters and with empathy and drama and like the little bits of comedy. um yeah, just it stuck with me. This almost made my top 5 list. I had it on here and then I swapped it out at the last minute. But yeah, it's just this story of human dignity and the importance of due process as like a thing for executing justice, and like why you need that even in cases where it seems cut and dry. And then it's like, yeah, it's about someone who is devoted to doing the right thing even when the right thing is difficult. And that's just like a very comforting thing to watch. And then yeah, after that I have Cartel Land. This is a documentary by Matthew Heineman. Um, if you liked Sicario, this is sort of a documentary version of that. You'll probably get something out of this documentary. It's definitely much more nuanced in its perspective, but it covers a lot of similar topics. And yeah, this is not, if you don't like the history class talking heads and B-roll documentary, that is definitely not what this is. Um, just for example, at one point, the filmmakers witness a full-on shootout. Like this is an on the ground, they are in the action here for this documentary. So if you don't like the standard dry history documentary, this is very different from that. Then I have Dope, which is written and directed by Rick Famuyiwa. And this is sort of part coming of age story, part crime comedy set in a rough neighborhood in Los Angeles. And it's just really fun and energetic. um a fun take on the coming of age comedy thing that has its own very unique direction that it takes things. Though I will say that the ending ends up feeling a bit tropey in a way that I was a bit disappointed by. Um, then here's my hear me out pick for the list here. Um, 50 Shades of Grey. This maybe there are other things that deserve to be in my honorable mentions more than this one, but I just I can't not talk about this. For the sake of brevity, I will point people to Dan Olson, who does the YouTube channel Folding Ideas, has a really great video on why this is a better movie than it gets credit for being. Well, maybe not being good still. It's worth checking out even if you have no interest in the movie, because it's, you know, very thorough in its analysis and sort of challenges a lot of narratives around this film that have sort of set in because the books being kind of bad. Or not kind of bad, very bad. But yeah, I just think, I mean, Dakota Johnson is so underrated in this film. Her performance here, it's a high wire act that you don't realize how high wire of an act it is until you actually like sit down and think about what she has to do here and the character she has to portray. And then the ending of this, like the final moments are maybe the best final moments in a film that I've seen that I could think of off the top of my head right now. Just the ending is so perfect, and definitely gets ruined by the fact that there are sequels that undercut what it is going for. But if you're just like looking at this on its own, that ending is incredible. Um, then I have a small film called Kylie Blues. This is the debut feature of the Chinese filmmaker Bai Gan, and he's sort of a rising voice in the slow cinema movement right now. He has a new film out this year that I think is hitting theaters in the U.S. next year, which I'm very excited for. But yeah, the big thing with this film is that there's a set piece that is a 40-minute long unbroken take following the characters through this Chinese village. At one point, they get on a boat and like cross a river, and it's completely unbroken. It's really cool. Um, really interesting filmmaking there. Then I have another hear me out pick though, very different from the last one. This is Terrence Malick's Knight of Cups. Speaking of slow cinema, this is the first of his that I saw, and it captivated me. I was enraptured. Um, I hadn't seen anything like this at this point, and it completely worked for me. This is definitely of this era of Terrence Malick. It has all of the things that people criticize him for. It's low on plot, heavy on characters whispering narration over footage of people walking slowly and or rolling around in bed. Um, Personally, it works for me. Yeah. And then last up here, I have Slow West. This is written and directed by John McLean. I don't want to make this comparison too much because I think it is maybe an oversaid comparison, but this is kind of what I would imagine a Wes Anderson Western might look like. Obviously, John McLean has an artistic voice all of his own, but that's just sort of like visually and tonally my pitch for this movie for anyone who's wanting to check it out is if you enjoy Wes Anderson, this is a Wes Anderson Western. Um, and yeah, the great performances, especially Michael Fassbender and Ben Mendelsohn.
Looking at your honorable mentions of your original ones, Maze Runner Scores Trials, we watched that in theaters together,
Yeah,
I think.
yeah.
I didn't love the sequel or the one after that, so whatever. And then, for whatever context, you showed us the Duff. I don't remember why you did that, but
I
you
don't
did that.
either.
But yeah, of your current honorable mentions, Bridge of Spies, which was originally on my honorable mentions until you stole it from me. Uh, yeah, I watched this as part of my Tom Hanks and Steven Spielberg filmology stuff. Um, I was interested by the historical aspect of it because education has failed me and never told me about this part of history, and so I was like, oh yeah, I find that really interesting. And yeah, it's well done, and that's it.
My honorable mentions, and also I will say on the idea of being confused who goes in what order. I think when I was like scrolling through and I see 1, 2, and then I'm 3, and I don't know. I just thought John, Jay, John, me, or something. Anyways, something stupid. I love Jay's idea of the going alphabetical, and I never do because there is no meaning to my order. Anyways, I do love the Peanuts movie, more or less because I'm a fan of Peanuts. Um, I I enjoy it. Um, I also love the Minions movie. Um, I I do like this Despicable Me franchise slash Minions franchise. Um, Not everything's perfect, and definitely they're kind of at a point where I feel like they're kind of just making movies to make movies. But hey, I like the Minions. Give me a little giggle. Honestly, there was one time where it's like I want to like do some work, but I didn't want it to be nothingness, and so I put on Minions. This is, you know how maybe I'm starting to have some pretentious thoughts and like, oh, you shouldn't put a movie in the background, maybe kind of vibe. But Minions is a great movie to put on the background. It's so great. I'll probably do it again. It's awesome. Um, Sicario. Didn't realize that released this year. Dang. That's Denis Villeneuve. Solid movie. The Escort. This was definitely a movie where I kind of like getting early into movies and kind of just discovering like what's on like around in Tubi. Maybe I don't forget how or why I watched it. I definitely know the actress here. the lead actress, is in the Agent Carter TV series. I don't
Okay.
remember if that's why I watched it. And I'm also not necessarily going to go to bat saying this is incredible, but I recall really liking it. I think it also makes an somewhat basic, but I had never thought about it, but an interesting case about sex work. I just never thought of it before. The Priest, also another movie of Boxodam. Um, she plays the girl who's possessed in this movie, and I think she won like, is it, what's the I'm sorry, I'm gonna look it up. Uh,
Yeah, I
so
don't know the
the
awards
Blue
that well.
Dragon
Oh, yeah, I
Award.
know that award.
So the Blue Dragon Award. I think it was like best new actress or best actress, something like that, best new star, something like that. So definitely like it was a breakthrough role for her, really cool. Um, Also the director, I think later directed Exuma. So definitely, I think the director is fascinating because of his interest in possession, horror, and religion. Um, it's very fascinating to me. Um, by the way, this year released some kind of sequel called Dark Nuns, but it's not directed
Huh.
by him. I don't know what relation it is. I might just be using the name just to do another movie, but still, I'm interested to watch that. It just hit Amazon Prime. Then Daddy's Home, starring Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg. This is just another movie you watch for fun. I like some Will Ferrell. I don't remember much, but whoopee. Um, a movie. I have a coworker who likes to say this as Ex Machina, and I think it's so funny. Ex Machina, Ex Machina, from director Alex Garland. Um, tis interesting. I am not as gung ho about this movie as other people are, but it definitely is an interesting movie. Also, another movie I'm definitely not that gung ho about is Inside Out. I should give those movies another shot, but it didn't fully work for me, um, and I need to try to figure that out at some point.
You
So
know
yeah,
what's very funny? Inside
what?
Out doesn't work for me either.
Awesome. I
It
feel a little justified.
the first one, I like the sequel much better than the
Hmm.
first one. The first one, there's a particular emotional moment that landed very false to me.
Hmm.
Um I mean, maybe this is too much. It's Inside Out. People have seen Inside Out. I don't have any strong emotional reaction to the fact that I have forgotten my imaginary friend. So when the film is asking me to be sad about that,
Hmm.
it does not work for me. Um and yeah, similarly with Ex Machina, that's one that when I saw it, I was fascinated by it, but maybe not as engaged with it as a lot of other people are. I will say I have watched the dancing scene with Oscar Isaac and Sonoya Mizuno so many times. Great dance scene. Um, yeah, I've also seen of this list. I've seen Sicario, which yeah, it's a really good thriller. The score by Johan Johansson is just incredible. I haven't seen it in many years though, and yeah, I think I watched it even in like 2015 or something. And then I just recently watched the Peanuts movie, and it was maybe a little bit more Hollywood animated kids movie than I would have preferred. You know, they have a dance break with a pop song, and they have some very like fast pacing. Um, but the animation is just so gorgeous, incredible animation.
Yeah, I wanted to. I was thinking about expanding on my thoughts on Peanuts movie based off your reaction, and I think like one thing you mentioned in your reviews is a little breakneck pacing. And I do think I do agree because I feel like in general Peanut stuff is very laid back, and
Yeah,
this movie definitely ramps it up a lot. So, but also what you said, like animation, like what an incredible way to stay faithful to the original style while also it being in a different animation style.
Yeah, I think watching it a couple days ago, like, I think this is under discussed in terms of that, like, move away from CG as attempting to capture a certain sense of realism and towards more stylization. Like, this is up
Mm,
there with the
dang,
Spider-Verse movies and like the Lego movie in terms of that.
I never thought of it that way.
The only films from this I've seen is the Minions movie, and I don't remember loving it when I saw it, and I have not seen it since. So high bar. Moving on to my honorable mentions, y'all were mentioning how you ordered it. I just ordered it by how it looked visually on this PowerPoint.
Awesome.
um, yeah, yeah. So first film, Everest, about a team of climbers climbing Mount Everest during a massive storm, and they antics ensue. That's not the right word for it, but stuff ensues, and yeah, it's sad and whatever, whatever. Then we have The Walk, uh, which is about a guy who walks across the World Trade Center buildings just for the heck of it, and it's an interesting way of that story being told. This is directed by Robert Zemeckis, I think. It has an
Yes.
interesting way it tries to tell its story, and I found that fun. There's like a 20-minute section of this film that makes your hands sweat a little bit, even though it's fake. It's like, oh, for some reason your body has a natural reaction to what's going on, and that was fun. Then we have Fast and Furious 7, which is the really where the peak of the franchise was on an overall level. I'm not talking about going to space. That's a different level of peak. But in terms of quality, it's probably the best one. It's the most emotional one. It's the last one with Paul Walker. It's honestly where the franchise should have ended. And then they just wanted to make more money. And then next up, yeah, I have Predator: Dark Ages, which is actually a fan film on YouTube, where it's these people wanted to tell the story of like a classic Predator film, but told with the medieval knight. And for a fan film, it's actually very well done. In that it doesn't fully feel like a typical fan film where it's like, oh yeah, like low budget, cheesy and goofy. Here it actually feels like they did their research on the historical time periods. They added like little subtle context where if you understood the history, it's like, oh wow, that's actually pretty good. And on that level, it's pretty good. I was really excited for the concept. I love the concept of visiting the Predator in the different time periods, and this was like kind of the first one that actually did like a proof of concept of how it would look like. And then of course Prey came out and that did that as well. And Kill of
Yeah.
Killers. But this is the one that I wanted to see. Then for my anime pick, I have The Anthem of the Heart, which is the story of a girl who stopped speaking due to emotional trauma of her childhood, learning to, I guess, find her voice again. And that sounds very simple, but it's actually pretty decent. Next up, another quote unquote fan film or just short film, YouTube short film called Kung Fury, which is kind of like an 80s parody film with like all the genres, where you have like this kung fu cop guy who travels back in time to kill a kill or arrest a like martial arts experts Adolf Hitler, and then you got like dinosaurs and T Rex and machine guns, and it's like it's all wild and crazy, and like sure the visuals are not gonna are not gonna fly on the big screen, but like hey, they put effort in this. They really need to release the sequel. It's like in limbo because of studios, but yeah.
Oh.
Anyway, yeah, which is a shame. And then my next two picks are actually TV shows. The first one is Netflix's Daredevil. Season 1 came out this year, one of my all-time favorite shows, top five. This first season in particular, I absolutely love everything about it. It's well written, it's well performed, the cinematography is like decent, and then I love all the characters, I love the actors, and I like everything about it. Next is then lastly Jessica Jones. Again, another top tier Netflix Marvel TV show. Jessica Jones, the main character, is fascinating, but this show also had one of the best Marvel villains in Kilgrave, portrayed by David Tennant, who is like every time he's on screen, you are like kind of scared about what he's gonna do. You have no idea if like things are gonna turn out well, and you're kind of worried for the characters. Um, if these two shows were not TV shows, if they were films, they would be my top two. But because they're shows, they have to be relegated to honorable mention. So that's why they're here.
Yeah, of these I've seen Jessica Jones, which, well, it's kind of funny with the Marvel Netflix shows. I have seen half of an episode of all of the Marvel Netflix shows except for Jessica Jones. That's the only one I've actually seen in full, except I haven't finished season 3, I don't think. Um but yeah, Jessica Jones. And then I actually have a funny story with Everest. Because I kept waiting for years and years. I was waiting for it to be available on a streaming service I had. And it would seem like I would always just miss it. And so I was waiting and waiting and waiting. And one day I'm going through my DVD collection. What's sitting right there that I had completely forgotten that I had bought? Everest. It had been sitting there for like 2 years. And I was waiting for it to show up on a streaming service. So anyway, I will also say it's a weirdly stacked supporting cast. Like Mia Goth is in this in the background of like two scenes. Vanessa Kirby is also in here. It's like, oh, those are two people who I recognize who I wouldn't have at the time. Have you seen any of these, Christopher?
No, I've definitely expressed interest in the first season of Jessica Jones. I think, especially at that time, because assuming it would probably be the least violent out of the Marvel Netflix stuff. Now I'm probably at a level where I could probably take what they're gonna hand over to me, but I just struggle making time for TV shows. So
And
maybe
they're
one day.
long. They're like 13 or 14 episodes each,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and like the
So,
not particularly well paced either.
mm,
I mean, depends on who you ask, but sure.
mm, yeah, I I do want to, but it's maybe one day. Maybe one day. Like I usually watch TV shows with my roommates, and we've been stuck on a limited series for maybe about half a year at this point,
Oh,
just because our schedules don't really line up.
yeah.
And then I struggle watching things alone, either the motivation to watch the next episode, or if I get really sucked into it, then that's all I want to do. So I don't know. Presently, it's easier for me to watch movies, but there's so
Yeah,
many
yeah.
TV shows I want to watch. So it's not like I'm anti TV show. It's just presently hard for me to make time for them.
You guys are weird. I don't
You know,
I don't understand how you can watch TV shows. It's like breathing for me. It's like this year alone I've seen like what, 50, 100 different anime. That's too much, but
okay,
still.
okay. Who has a job? Who doesn't
Yeah.
have a job? But also, I feel like Jay's been watching a handful of TV shows lately, in which
I've
I've been
watched
fascinated by.
I've seen some TV shows, but yeah. Anyway, onto number one here. My original number one, which again I was caught up in the hype. I have to say that Star Wars: The Force Awakens. Again, caught up in the hype of the moment. A pick that just as time has gone on, I have has sat with me. It's just been like, oh, what was I even thinking? Why? To the extent that like now when I make my lists, I am very intentional about trying to keep franchises that I love away from the top spot. Just because looking back at this, I'm like, oh, even at the time, there were so many other films that I could have put there, including my current number one, which has been my number one, should have been my number one back in 2015, Mad Max Fury Road. I mean, how do you not put this at number one? How do I not put this at number one? This is like top five of all time for me, hands down. You asked me, hey, want to watch Mad Max? I am sitting down on the couch and watching it. It's just it's insane. This is an insane film. I have read the book about the making of this film. It should not exist. It should not be good. It is. It is like the best action film of all time. They they went into the desert and they blew up cars for months. Why? How? They had people swinging on poles back. Who said yes to this? I mean, I know who said yes to this because I read the book about it. It was it's insane. The details are it's so much, and everything serves a purpose. This is such a particularly finely constructed film. Like they were working on this for like 20 years trying to get this made, refining the storyboards and thinking deeply about like all of these things, and they got it to the point where like you can watch a version of this with the dialogue cut out and you understand everything that's going on. It is just so refined and fine-tuned. And yeah, everything is just it's so good. I have watched this so many times and will watch it so many times again. But I have introduced this to like everyone I know. Um yeah, it's also like the more you watch it, the deeper it becomes, and the more you figure out the various little character arcs, because this is like a very emotional story as well. um and you start to see these arcs and these characters, and you start to really care about the world beyond just the like insane practical effects. Yeah, it's incredible. Also, it's like it's 2 hours long. Not no I think it's like an hour and 59 minutes even. Like this is a quick movie, goes by really fast. So much fun, insane, great. If you haven't seen it, go and see it. If you have seen it, go and watch it again. Yeah, Mad Max Fury Road.
Yeah, this is another one that you forced us to watch. Um, and like because you forced me to watch things back then, I resisted the urge to enjoy it. And I maybe have rewatched it since then, but I don't recall any strong emotions either way. But it is visually very pretty, and it's pretty cool from the stuff that I have rewatched. But I won't give you anything until I rewatch it again, so I'll leave it alone for now.
Oh man, the contrast is amazing. The contrast is amazing. Um, uh, Jay, I have a couple of questions for you. On the poster, it says
Okay.
see it in 3D. Have you seen it in 3D?
I have not. I have never seen this in theaters. I was hoping they would re-release it for the 10-year anniversary, and they didn't.
I wonder if that
I'm
was based off the reception of Furiosa.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. There's also some like legal issues with um people not getting paid what they should have been paid. I don't know all that's drama I don't really know about. I know about the
Hmm.
making of the film. I don't know about the subsequent fallout of that nearly as much.
And um, did you watch the black and white version?
I have watched the black and white version a couple times, maybe more than a couple times. It's
Yeah,
it's a very different experience. I definitely would not recommend that as like a first time watch, but it does
Hmm.
when you rewatch it, it does add something. Like the texture is very interesting. I know John, you're doing your black and white series, so this might be one to revisit with that. Especially since there is like a version that was intentionally made that way.
yeah,
I
yeah.
have also seen someone put together a silent cut of the film. Actually, there's multiple um floating around. What one the one that I have that's like the full film, I have seen this enough times that I can tell that the music cues don't line up.
Hmm.
So it's very frustrating, but there's a different someone who did just like little snippets of it on YouTube that it's just like again it works so well. This is one of those where I'll be like, "Oh, I should watch a scene from Mad Max Fury Road again." And then I just end up watching the whole thing again because yeah, it's
So
incredible.
I watched it for the first time yesterday morning.
Okay.
I did not. go to sleep as early as I wanted to, and I had to wake up early because I had a long day at work. So I was unfortunately a very sleepy guy watching this, and I wish I wasn't. I wish I was more awake watching it because I remember watching Furiosa and kind of, which was also in the theater, and kind of being in awe of it. And it pains me to say of being sleepy watching this and trying to stay awake, but it's like I really wanted to watch it for to talk about it here, and I don't think I have any other time to watch it. So again, like it's incredibly made. I would definitely love to read more about the making of it, but I do think it may need another watch out of me. And I'm glad to hear you say that. The more you watch it, the deeper it becomes, and I'm very fascinated to discover that. Hopefully with future rewatches, because I doubt this would be an isolated watch from me because yeah, it's a very fascinating film for sure. So I also do apologize. I'm not as enthusiastic, but I'm fascinated by it regardless.
Yeah, this is one I definitely recommend rewatching because it does grow on rewatch and you're able to kind of pick at the character arcs because I mean the first time around you're just it's an overwhelming wave of everything, whereas
Mm.
the second time around you can kind of focus on okay, what's Furiosa, what's her character arc here. um
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, just to give some credits here, the book that I read is called Blood, Sweat, and Chrome by Kyle Buchanan, and it's like a an oral history. So he was interviewing people actually involved in the production, um, talking about just again, absolutely insane. You could make an entire movie about the making of this movie that would be as insane as the movie itself. The drama, the stuff they this almost got canceled by Warner Brothers. Like Warner Brothers said no more. They shut down production at one point.
Oh wow.
Like after they had done all of the desert stuff, all of the difficult stuff they were supposed to have off for Christmas and then go back to do stuff in studio for um in South Africa. And Warner Brothers said no more. We're putting an end to this. And it wasn't until I think a year or so later that there was new leadership at Warner Brothers. It was like, okay, fine, you can finish it. But yeah,
That's
Blood, Sweat, and Chrome,
insane.
the book by Kyle Buchanan, very much worth checking out. And then the channel is Billy Barnell, who did the silent cut on YouTube that I like, and it's just specific scenes, but really well done. He titled it Mad Max Silent Fury, Black and Chrome, and that's again that's the dialogue has been cut out, so it's just the music, and it's sublime.
Yeah. This is the one film that I always think about you, Jay, because it's like you have always talked about this film any chance you can get, and yeah, I know you really love it. I wish I could have that same appreciation, but I don't know.
Maybe someday. Maybe
Yeah,
someday.
and I think I'll get there because I did really enjoy Furiosa.
Yeah, and Furiosa is like a very interesting contrast. Because they're very different, but like yeah, the same character is, and it adds some depth there as well.
Hmm. I think also another thing is Mad Max is almost all desert, and Furiosa goes to
More
more
variation. Yeah.
variation, visual variation, and I think also like the backstory was interesting. Um, and so this is a lot. There's uh, not as visual various and arguably more nuanced. Um, so yeah, it may take time, but I think I'll get there. It's definitely not trying to like again, like I said, I feel a little bad that like my first watch wasn't the best, but like what you said, probably will grow on me more and be less overwhelmed in the future. So yeah, I do hope to give it a rewatch. Honestly, like I would like to see the original trilogy at some point, just out of curiosity.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Road Warrior or Mad Max 2, those are the same movie, just different titles depending on where you are. That one is, I would say, almost as good as Fury Road. It feels almost
Oh
like a
wow.
dry run of Fury Road, where
Okay.
Fury Road kind of refines a lot of ideas. And there's even just like shots that are very similar. But yeah, yeah, fascinating franchise, but Fury Road is for me the absolute peak. And also, you can watch Fury Road without having seen any of the others. It works on its own.
I guess it's time for my number one. This movie is called The Throne, and um, s- speaking of Parasite, also um, has the lead actor from Parasite, Song Kang Ho,
Oh, okay.
in this film. But yeah, this is based on historical events and doing a little bit of reading. Um, they make the lead character a little better than he was in real life, but regardless, just meeting where this movie's at, I thought it was very fascinating, well told story. Honestly, made me cry at the end.
Mm.
Can't lie. I shed some tears at the end. Um, so yeah, I really like this film. I think this year's very interesting. From my list, specifically top five, I think is a very solid top five that I gave, and also some in honorable mentions I really love. But I think most of these movies I've probably rated around like 4 stars. Maybe this one 4.5. But I think of while I mean this one I did put at number one, but it's just such a solid year, and it was definitely a little hard to rank. And I bet I could come back a different day and rank these a little differently. This is still probably at number one, but uh, yeah, I just want to say like all the movies I watched or said in the top five, I really do like. And yeah, so if you like a little bit of history and you like a little bit of Korea and you mix both of those together, it's Korean history, mind blowing. If you like those things, then um, again, while it may not be the truest to um, the past, the story that is told, I think, is really good and emotional. Um, kind of specifically like when it gets tied up at the end. Um, yeah, I really do like this film.
Yeah, I don't know a ton about this era of Korean history, so this film definitely looks intriguing. And yeah,
Yeah,
just the production design is very striking.
Mm-hmm.
and I have not seen it, so yeah. Well, moving on to my number one. My original number one, just like Jay, was Star Wars The Force Awakens. And yeah, the hype was palpable. It was such a fun and good hype before the trauma, before the rift, before now you can't even enjoy it anymore because of just how suffocating it is today. But yeah, like listening back to the original podcast episode, whenever I mention this, I don't know, I feel so sad listening to my younger self explaining my reasons why it's my number one. And the simple, innocent reason I gave is because it's Star Wars. And that meant a lot back then. And today not so much, and it's really sad. Um, but yeah, what's weird is my number one for this year is still The Force Awakens. And it is not because that it's my favorite film of this year. It's because it's the one film that I associate with the year 2015. I cannot think of any other film. When you ask me what's the year of 2015, it's this. And for some reason, there's no other film that I feel comfortable putting in my number one spot. I don't like any of the other films in another putting into my other one spot. I think they're stronger than this one, but I can't put any other film in this one. Visually, of the sequel trilogy, I think this is the best looking one. Um, at the time, I was excited about a lot of the stuff that the story had set up. In hindsight, once the trilogy is over, it's just kind of not as interesting as it was. But it's still, I think, the best of this trilogy. It's still nostalgic. I guess this is the most nostalgic one of the Star Wars films that I could say why I chose it to be number one. I, yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know what else to say about it.
Yeah, it's Star Wars: The Force Awakens. It it doesn't mean today what it meant when it came out.
Yeah. Anyway, let's continue this soured move with our least favorite.
Yeah. So my original was Crimson Peak, Guillermo del Toro's Crimson Peak. I at the time bought into a lot of the criticisms that I had heard of it, um, which very much painted my reaction. In retrospect, like, this isn't one of my favorite Del Toro films, but it's much better than I gave it credit for. And like, not one of my favorite Del Toro's films is still very high praise for me because I love pretty much all of his films that I've seen. Um, so yeah, that was on my part something that didn't age particularly well, a choice there. We'll see if my redo does. I have a feeling it will. I went with, for my worst film currently of 2015, I chose Stonewall. This is the Roland Emmerich film about Stonewall. It's okay. So I watched this a few weeks ago, and I was curious about this because this is one of those movies that was controversial from the moment the trailer came out. And I remember there being like a backlash when the trailer came out, and then another backlash when the movie came out. And sometimes with these types of films, a narrative sets in based on the marketing, and then it makes it a little bit difficult to evaluate the movie as itself immediately in response to that marketing. So I kind of wanted to just see for myself, like, now that there's a little bit of distance from the marketing, like, is this as bad as everyone says it is? So sitting down to watch it, started out, it was pretty boring. It's it follows a fictional protagonist who has been made intentionally bland to try and appeal to as many people as possible, particularly straight audiences. Side note, it is kind of ironic that a film that is this critical of the Mattachine Society, which I think it should be, does this very specific thing, which feels like, oh, that's ideologically you're more aligned with that you want to claim to be. And the supporting cast just in general is not giving a ton of focus or dignity by the narrative. We're seeing things basically through the eyes of this protagonist rather than having to empathize directly with these other characters who are in more difficult situations. We actually see more stuff from the perspective of the main cop antagonist than from any of the non-white characters in this movie, which, yeah, that's a choice. That's a choice. Um, it also just really dwells in the misery, which this was a very difficult time. I wish there was a little bit more joy to counterbalance that out. But like, at this point, hour and a half into the movie, I still was like, okay, this isn't great. I don't know why people were this mad about it. Then we got to the riot scenes. Okay, something to understand about Stonewall if you aren't familiar with it. We don't know who threw the first brick at Stonewall. There are a lot of theories out there and conflicting accounts. But the thing about it is, not knowing who threw the first brick or what was going through their head means that Stonewall has come to represent just all of this oppression that queer people were facing at the time. Like, it can mean anything because we don't know specifically what it meant at the time. That it has become this giant movement that has come from it. And yeah, that's part of why it has endured as this event, is there's this like mystery that allows it to be more than it meant to the individual who threw the first brick. So this movie decides that the white protagonist is going to be the one who throws the first brick, and the specific reason he does it is because it's the last straw that makes him throw the brick is that his boyfriend, who just cheated on him, tells him not to. So it's like this moment of like, oh, I'm gonna prove you wrong by throwing I don't know how to express how angry this makes me. Like, this giant important moment in history has been reduced to like a part of a character's character arc, a fictional character. What? Yeah, I'm not usually a stickler for historical accuracy. Like, I was thinking about this in comparison to Titanic, which is like one of my all-time favorites. Also takes a real historical event and places fictional characters in it. But Rose and Jack and Titanic, they are a way to get the audience to emotionally connect to the historical event. Stonewall thinks it is doing that, but instead it's taking a historical event and reducing it to part of a fictional character's character arc. It's it's terrible. It's yeah, no good. It doesn't have any value as a it doesn't have any value at all. Like, if you're watching this to learn about the history, this will give you an incorrect picture of the history. If you're watching this to learn about like the emotions of the time, yeah, it's meaningless. And yeah, you'd think Roland Emmerich of all people would at least do a good job with the riot scenes, but it just doesn't work. They're too constrained, too short. Yeah, just it does such a horrible job. Reading about the events, I had a stronger, more deep emotional reaction than to watching this film. This movie just made me mad. Yeah, that's I think that's my piece on this. I did not go into this expecting to have a strong reaction to it. And then walking out of it, I was like, okay, I completely understand why there was such a backlash to this. Yeah,
I've
Yeah,
not seen it, so
neither have I.
yeah, kind of, it has gone unnoticed. If I found out I am the first person to talk about this in 5 years, I would not be surprised because luckily it has been lost to time. That is the one good thing here. No one remembers it.
um, I put in my slot of worst film The Duff, but I'm gonna go easy on it. I don't really remember the film. It's just kind of one of those movies where it's like you're kind of just in the mood for a movie like this, and you watch this, and you have yourself a time, and you don't think too deeply about it. Um, yeah. So I don't really remember this film, and that's okay. But that's probably just what I wanted to watch in the moment, and I had myself my fun. So yeah.
Yeah, I remember. Obviously, this ended up in my honorable mentions originally, so I must have liked it a lot at the time. Apparently, I made John watch it as well. Um, yeah, I remember it being fun, but I honestly, it's been 10 years since I saw it, so my memories of it are a little fuzzy.
yeah, for me as well. Yeah, I don't know what context we watched it. It could have been like another one of your birthdays. Like again, it must have been another double feature. Was this
Okay,
the double feature that we had with Mad Max? I don't know. um,
I that seems like an odd.
That's a crazy double feature.
yeah,
Yeah.
something happened way back when, but I have no memories of.
I'm looking at the poster. I see Ken Jeong. I'm like, he was in this movie. I
Apparently, he
don't
wasn't
remember.
showing up in any of the images that I searched. Um,
It's so wild.
but yeah,
Mm,
poorly photoshopped in at the back there.
yeah, the only thing I like even remember is Robbie Amell, but that's it.
He's good in this, or at least he's attractive in this. So
Yeah,
sometimes I forget there's a difference.
yeah. Moving on to my least favorite of the year. Originally, it was Fant Four Stick, and yeah, that was the obvious choice at the time. Even today, it's the obvious choice. Um, at the time, I think personally, it was one of the worst films I had ever seen, and I've since seen worse films. Um, but in retrospect, I do actually like the first half of the film. I think it's an interesting
Okay,
sci-fi experience. It's the
yeah,
second half that I think just ruins everything. But even that, I just think every direction made in this film was just not the direction needed for Fantastic Four. It was just wrong from the get go. But thinking about it conceptually, I do enjoy it. And so for that reason, I cannot rehash on it being my worst. So the worst one that I chose because I couldn't find any worse ones. And it's not that I was looking; it's just what I've seen. This is the only other one is Barbie and Princess Power. This was back in the era where Barbie films were like doing their genre experiences. So they were doing different genres, and this time they did the superhero genre, and that didn't work for me. Go listen to our Binging Barbie episode for more thoughts. But
Yeah,
I don't remember. I don't remember anything about this film.
it's
Um,
bad. It's
you
not
liked
good.
it though. You liked it though.
No, I didn't.
I think you did.
I don't remember liking it.
You enjoyed it more than I did. That's what
That
I
might be the
remember.
case, but I don't like it.
All right.
Barbie looks not like Gollum, but closer to Gollum than Barbie should look.
Yeah.
Yeah. As
Yeah.
for Fan Four Stick, like I think maybe it's because I'm not as big of a Fantastic Four fan as like some people are. I'm less offended by the liberties it takes with the characters, though I do agree that like at a certain point it just kind of goes off the rails and is boring. Um, I will also say it's kind of funny to me that it has become a bit of a meme in the last year or so. The um
It's fantastic. Say that again.
yeah, that specific moment. It's like this movie was hated 10 years ago. Why is anyone rewatching it to make that a meme?
You know why.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk about that at some point in the coming months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm entertained by the fact that the poster says from the studio that brought you X-Men: Days of Future Past.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was the most recent one, so it makes sense
Yeah.
for them to
Yeah, but like Future
very
Past is
different.
a good
Yeah.
movie, and
Yep.
you have to do that. That's crazy.
Yeah. We're not done here. You have a couple extra things for us to do, Jay.
Yeah, so just when we released our original episode 10 years ago, John and I both talked about our most anticipated films for 2016, just sort of looking ahead. So my choice for that was Hail Caesar. I think because the trailer had just recently come out and it's a very good trailer. Um, and yeah, I would say looking back at it, I and actually I just recently rewatched it because I've been going through the Coen brothers, and yeah, it's one where I love individual scenes a whole lot, but it doesn't hang together as well as a movie for me. Like the Channing Tatum stuff, the Alden Ehrenreich stuff, there's just some really really good stuff in here. Like the Channing Tatum's dance sequence is just incredible. Um, but yeah, as a whole, it just doesn't quite land for me.
Yeah. I've not seen this one. It's something that I think I'll see at some point, but yeah, not yet.
Yeah.
But my most anticipated film in that time period was Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. Yeah, like the trailers again, they were just coming out. I, being a huge DC fan, was like really excited to see a new version of Batman, especially one inspired by the Dark Knight Returns visual style. I was excited. It looked cool. Watching it, I did really enjoy it. It's uh, I love it still, even though it's has some issues and it's probably not the best age considering where the whole franchise went since then. But by itself, I just enjoy it. It's it's my guilty pleasure, I guess. I don't think it's that bad, but I guess sure it's my guilty pleasure. So yeah, I really liked it.
Yeah, I will hold my thoughts till a later date on that one.
Um, I I don't mind this film. Like I as much as I don't love online Snyder culture, I don't necessarily have anything against him or his movies, and I probably didn't like this one as much as Man of Steel, but I did find this one interesting and enjoyable. Um, and I am entertained by the fact that kind of like my enjoyment of DC Snyder kind of goes down with each movie. So basically, I kind of said, yeah, I'm not crazy about Justice League. So I'd rather rewatch Man of Steel and Batman v Superman, and I saw the extended version as well. So I also don't have the context of those who don't like the original version.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that too.
Yeah. Christopher, you of course weren't here with us 10 years ago to talk about your most
No.
anticipated film. Well, that's it for 2015. And yeah, that's 10 years of us doing the podcast. Almost 10
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
Yeah, for like any any one or two listeners who listened from all the way back then, if you're still around or exist, thanks for sticking around, or if you just found us because we've been doing this whole thing for the past year, thanks for watching us for the past year. Yeah, next year we have plans. I won't
Yeah.
say them right now, but we have plans. Um, One of them is to do 2016 again, and I can't wait for next year. I'm really excited to revisit that year because it's one that I slept on, and now looking back, I'm like, oh, there are films that I want to talk about. So yeah, uh, yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else you guys want to say?
Excited to see what we're doing next.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, with that, thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you all next time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.